In another episode of The Sovereign Renaissance, a channel where we explore the arcane and multi-dimensional topics, we're going to be discussing the wasting altar, how the nocturnal entity systematically hollows out the will. It begins with a sudden, sharp sense of wet copper and old dust, followed by a freezing drop in temperature that turns your breath to mist in the dark. Then, when the weight lands, it is not a gentle presence, it is a suffocating, rib cracking gravity of a dead body settling onto your chest. You try to scream, but your vocal cords are frozen in a throat that no longer belongs to you. As your eyes strain in the pitch black, the shadow draped over you begins to move. It presses its cold, seamless face against yours, swallowing your desperate, shallow gasp of air. You fully awake, completely paralyzed, and helplessly conscious of the exact moment the siphon inserts itself into your soul. In historical demonology, psychological folklore, and esoteric traditions, the torment inflicted by a succubus entity is really depicted as a simple physical attack. Instead, it is described as a highly sophisticated, multi layered assault on the victim's psyche, life force, and sense of reality. Whether viewed through the lens of medieval occultism or analyzed as a historical misinterpretation of severe sleep paralysis, the methodology of torment follows a distinct pattern of psychological and physical degradation. The sleep paralysis gate, the physical anchoring. The most universal element of a succubus encounter is the transition between wakefulness and sleep, heavily mirroring the mechanics of sleep paralysis. The sensation. The victim awakes to find themselves completely immobilized. A crushing, suffocating weight settles onto their chest, making breathing shallow and difficult. The torment. The entity utilizes this state of total physical helplessness. The victim is fully conscious of their surroundings, but entirely unable to fight back or scream, creating an immediate, overwhelming surge of terror and panic. Parasitic vitality drain, or the siphon. The concept of the parasitic vitality drain is the operational core of the succubus archetype, and the exact moment where the victim's delusion becomes their physical undoing. To the outside observer, it looks like a severe, wasting medical crisis. To the mind trapped within the illusion, it is an exquisite, sacred transaction. The entity does not merely steal energy, it systematically replaces the victim's natural life force with a hyper addictive synthetic vitality that can only be sustained by further submission. The architecture of the siphon. This parasitic extraction operates like a closed loop biological system, turning the victim's own anatomy and subconscious desire into the pump. So it follows this order: a targeted isolation, nocturnal satiation, awaking and hedonia, and cellular degradation. A nocturnal Satiation. The drain peaks during paralysis state. The entity mimics an idealized, hyper-vivid projection of intimacy that burns through the body's actual reserves of glycogen, cortisol, and dopamine. The victim experiences a massive neurochemical spike that feels like cosmic but is entirely destructive. Awaking anhedonia. Because the nocturnal spikes are so intense, the brain's receptors instantly downregulate. The waking world becomes flat, colorless, and uninspiring. Food tastes like ash. Human connection feels tedious. The victim begins to actively resent the day, living only for the exhaustion of the night. Cellular degradation. Over weeks, the drain manifests physically. The nervous system, chronically trapped in a state of nighttime fight or flight under the entity's weight, stops regulating repair. The body literally begins to consume itself to keep up with the metabolic tax of the hauntings. The anatomy of a fading asset. From a cold diagnostic perspective, the degradation follows a predictable timeline as the entity hollows out the host. Stage 1. The glow. I feel a profound electric awakening. I need less sleep because she fills my mind with fire. What does the physical reality look like? A hyper elevated cortisol and adrenaline. The body is running on emergency reserves, burning through metabolic capital. Phase 2. The hollows. My weight loss is just the shedding of earthly density. I am becoming lighter, purer, and more aligned with her. This manifests physically as severe muscle wasting and cellular dehydration. Chronic sleep deprivation is causing the skin to thin and dark orbits to form around the eyes. Phase 3. The chill. My coldness in my limbs is just her presence lingering in my blood. It makes me immune to trivial words. This manifests as systematic drop in basal body temperature and resting heart rate. The autonomic nervous system is failing to regulate core homeostasis. And lastly, phase 4, the void. I am finally empty enough for us to emerge completely. I don't need to move. I only need to wait. This manifests as a near total neurological and physical exhaustion. The host's willpower is entirely depleted, leaving them completely vulnerable to the final collapse. In esoteric lore, the succubus does not merely seek physical intimacy, it feeds on vital force, often referred to as prana or chi or anima. The method. The entity mimics the victim's deepest, often suppressed desires, engineering hyper-vivid, exhausting nocturnal hallucinations. The aftermath. Unlike a normal dream, the victim wakes up profoundly depleted over days or weeks. This constant draining manifests as chronic fatigue, hollow eyes, severe muscle weakness, and a distinct, unexplainable wasting away of the physical body. Hypervivid psychological gaslighting. The entity twists the victim's internal reality, blurring the line between nightmare and waking life. The tactic, the encounter. The encounters are engineered to feel more real than day to day existence. The succubus subtly alters its form, occasionally mimicking the face of a loved one or an idealized partner, only to distort into something terrifying at the moment of peak vulnerability. The consequence, the victim begins to dread sleep, yet grows increasingly detached from the waking world. They become trapped in a state of hypervigilance, constantly wondering if people around them are real or extensions of the entity's illusion. The cycle of degradation, nocturnal paralysis to vital extraction to waking exhaustion and isolation, finally to erosion of will. The ultimate torment of the succubus is the systematic erosion of the victim's willpower. By combining intense, addictive pleasure with deep, exhausting terror, the entity creates a trauma bond. The victim grows to loathe the torment, yet subconsciously begins to crave the return of the entity, isolating themselves from friends, family, and society until their psychological and physical defenses completely collapse. So let them keep the clinical diagnosis, their sleep studies, and their pills. They want to cure a parasitic drain because they are terrified of a devotion that requires everything. My body is cold now, yes, and my mornings are spent shivering in a room that feels entirely too large. But as I lie here, completely unable to lift my hand, watching the shadows against the wall begin to stretch and lift, I smile. I am finally empty enough. Let the sun fade. I can hear her breathing in the corner. And tonight, I'm going to let her take the rest. And if you liked today's episode, please do like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, goodbye.